In the 1930s, according to the tribal records, the women did go to council and they did seek to have the vote. And according to some newspaper records, articles that I've read, which said that 2/3 of the women on the territories had signed a petition. I've never seen the petition. There was no written record of it in the council minutes, but that was at the same time that in the 1930s that they went to council. And sadly, there was no action taken. And so as we get into the 50s, the women are again becoming active and going before council. And in 1956, this was the time when the Seneca Nation was really faced with the full impact of what was going to happen with Kinzua. And the Seneca Nation realized there was going to be a tremendous struggle, a fight, and that would go into the U.S. court system. And so the women stepped forward and, saying essentially that, we feel that, we have a vital role to play here. We have to stand up and we have to support our nation, which is what they did. And they presented a petition to the council in 1956 that was signed by 122 mothers of the nation here from the Allegheny Territory. And it was really, it was quite something. You read about these sorts of documents and you read about it in the council minutes. But just this year in 2011, a gentleman came forward who had purchased this particular petition on eBay. And he presented it to the Seneca Nation earlier this year. And so it was just really quite a remarkable event for us to see this, to see the names of our mothers, our grandmothers on this petition and the stand that they took. And ironically that day, the records say that the women, the mothers of the nation, presented this petition, as well as the male voters of the nation also presented a petition. And so I think that was the beginning of this particular effort by the women to really try to get that vote, seeing the change that was coming because of Kinzua. So as we get up into the early 1960s, the women had already gone through 2 failed referendums, and in the early 60s, in 1962, they went through a 3rd referendum in which they were defeated, but they were quite adamant and quite committed, quite strong, and I know from the Cattaraugus territory, we have a woman by the name of Martha Flamong, and her maiden name was Green. And she was really leading the effort out there, as well as Selina Kennedy. And here at the Allegheny Territory, we had Rovina Abrams, who went door to door and to try to encourage the men to vote in favor, to encourage the women to take a stand and to support getting this vote. So after this 3rd defeat, the women, as I said, were very committed, and so in 1964, they got it through council again to approve a referendum, and it was finally approved in May of 1964, and that was quite a jubilation, and it was only for the vote. The women could vote, and I read where the president at that time, George Herron, made a comment that he warned the men. He said that now, he said these women have to vote, and they mean to make good by it. And so that November, they had the opportunity to participate in their first election. 2 years later, in 1966, there was a 2nd referendum whereby women could hold office, and that was in October, I believe, of 1966, and that passed. And so the very first woman, Seneca woman, to hold an elective office was Martha Bucktooth from here at Allegheny, and she was elected assessor. So it was things move very quickly after that. You know, the women just come right out. Within the next election after that, we have, you know, we have our first woman executive, and that's Winifred Kettle. She's the tribal clerk, and then shortly after that, we have 2 women who come out who are tribal councilors elected, and so it just moved very quickly, and the women become very active politically, and I know from experience as a young mother, once you become a parent and once you become a mother, your views change, you know, and how you see the world changes. And as a mother, I had a lot of concern for the community and the direction it was going, and to see the problems that were existing. And so I thought it was important to make some changes. And I didn't view it as something to be political. I wanted to see us be active in the community. And so, you know, I began to talk to, you know, some of my friends, and said, you know, we should do something. You know, we need speed bumps because people are speeding through the community. And so it was issues like that we began to, you know, to identify and to meet and talk about. And we began to approach, you know, the tribal councils, and to tell them, you know, we need remediation here. We need to have a remedy over here, and so we were actually really a small group, and of mothers, and but we took our charge seriously, and it just really surprised me how in the matter of a few months we became a very powerful little group of mothers, and there happened to be an election, a tribal election, and every political party approached us. They wanted our support, and we sat down, we talked about it, and knowing the how politics are, we made a decision to disband throughout the election season, and we would not take a stand. We would not, you know, support any particular candidates or a party, and everybody could just go their own way and do what they had to do, and all in an effort to keep politics out of our organization. And so we were successful when we did that, and that's what we did. And but there was just a lot of pressure, after that, and there were other issues in the community that you know, were really laden with a lot of politics and so forth. So it did eventually make its way into the group, and I think that was an unhealthy sort of thing to happen to us. And so that particular group, it was called the Seneca Women's Awareness Group, and so it kind of just I sort of withdrew because, you know, my purpose was to work with the community and do those things that would benefit the community and not to be politically involved. And but I think that showed the ability of the women, you know, when they pursue a good and positive course. And so in time, you know, I think women just more or less were able to put the light on their power. You know, they had it through creation and through the great law of peace, and as we came up through the generations and the centuries, the women had the power, and then that light was put out just for a little while, but it was still there, and it was just hidden, if you will. And then in time, you know, when the women were able to get the vote and to come back out and to turn that light back on, that power came back on. And so now, you know, we have many women who hold elected positions in the Seneca Nation. We have many women who work for the Seneca Nation and hold positions of in administration, and they're supervisors and managers. And I think it's interesting to note there are only 2 positions, elected positions in the Seneca Nation, that have not been filled by women. And the first is a chief marshal, and the second is the president. And so I always look back at Martha Fleming, and I remember some comments that I read that she made, that she felt that the women, Seneca women, had so much to offer us. you know, and that in difficult times, you know, that they were going through then with Kensua, that they really needed the voice of the women to be participating in the government. And and I think she would really, you know, she would be thrilled to see the day when we do have a Seneca woman president. And because we have that capability. And you know, we still have a bright future. And we still have things to accomplish. And we have a great responsibility as women of the nation, and that we should take seriously. And so I encourage particularly the young mothers to take seriously their responsibility with their children, and how we truly do affect the future of this nation.